Special angles. I've drawn several angles on this picture. Specifically, I've drawn in the terminal sides. So I haven't worried about the initial side or the rotation arrows, just to make the picture a little simpler. I haven't done anything strange. These are all positive angles, so rotating around counterclockwise, and none of the angles goes more than one rotation around. Most importantly, all of these angles are multiples of one of these four angles, 30, 45, 60, or 90 degrees. These angles come up a lot in trig, and it's important that we be able to visualize them quickly. So let's fill out the measure of the angles that are shown. I'll start with multiples of 90 degrees. Actually, I'll start right here along the positive x-axis. If this is the terminal side, one possibility is that I just didn't rotate anywhere at all, and so that would have a measure of 0 degrees. Well, a quarter turn from there would take me up to the positive y-axis. That would be 90 degrees. Another quarter turn to the negative x-axis, 180 degrees. And another quarter turn, another 90, would take me to the negative y-axis, 270 degrees. Of course, if I finished my full rotation, that would take me back to where I started, which means 360 is a coterminal angle to 0 degrees. The angles we've written down so far are all quadrantal angles, and you want to be able to quickly see these numbers and picture their locations in standard position. Let's move on to 45 degrees. 45 is pretty easy because it's half of 90, so that's an easy one to spot. If I go halfway between 0 and 90, I'm going to land here, and so this must be the 45 degree spot. Of course, 90 is a multiple of 45, but it's better to keep the quadrantal angles in a separate category. So I'm going to skip ahead to the next multiple of 45. 90 plus 45 would be 135. Again, it's all of these ones that are exactly halfway between the two quadrantal angles. Adding another 45, I get 180, and then another 45 takes me to 225. 270 would be next, plus another 45 would be 315 degrees. These angles that are all essentially at a 45 degree angle away are connected to each other, as we'll see as we go through the course. So these are the angles critical to think about as far as multiples of 45. How about multiples of 60 degrees? Well, let's see. 60 degrees would obviously be a little past 45, so it must be this one right here. Another 60 degrees would take me to 120 in the second quadrant, followed by 180, which is quadrantal, so I'm not really worried about that one. Plus another 60 would take me to 240, 60 degrees past 180. And then another 60 degrees would take me to 300, and then another 60, and I'd be all the way around at 360 degrees. But the four angles that we just filled in, the 60 and the 120 and the 240 and the 300, these are the angles that are essentially associated with that 60 degree angle. The final category is the multiples of 30. Again, many of the angles we've already written down are multiples of 30, but the ones we're going to point out now are all of the ones that are exactly 30 degrees away from the x-axis. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. In fact, I could have said the same thing about the others, all the angles that are 45 degrees away from the x-axis, or all the angles that are 60 degrees away from the x-axis. In any case, what we have is 30 degrees. Let's see, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150 would be one that we're missing. 180, 210 would be another one. I'm just counting by 30. 240 we have, 270, 300, and then 330 degrees. And so again, these ones that we've just filled out are the ones associated with a 30 degree angle. I've cleaned up the picture a little bit for you. I encourage you to review it and reproduce it enough times until you really have it down. As it says at the bottom, these angles are not going away, and the more of this you have in your head quickly, the easier time you're going to have. Thanks for watching.